join in on this Thursday afternoon. But I'm definitely very excited because, of course, my name is Chelsea Ellis Hogan. I'm with Jim Reynolds Asphalt Contractor. And we've been putting on this Women in History Month event for women in construction. This is our second time doing it. So our plan is to continue to do it annually for Black History Month as well as for Women's History Month, just to really show the people here locally in our community who are making a difference, who's really jumping into the industry and doing it in their own way. And that's what I love about it, because in our industry, we have so many different trades and so many different things you can do. And you can really turn your business into whatever it is you want to do and reach your audience that you truly want to reach. So that's why I'm excited to be here today with you amazing ladies, because you all have great stories, great businesses, and amazing brands as well that goes along with it. And also you are doing great work in helping other people get inside of the industry as well. So I'm really excited just to hear you all's story and to be able to share that with other people who may be interested in getting into our industries, are interested in just learning more how they can do business with us. So I wanted to introduce my brother today because he'll actually be the person who's moderating it. His name is Kahlil Garmon, and he's been working in the company for about 2 years now, over 2.5 years. And he recently graduated from WKU, getting his degree in entrepreneurship. And with working in the business, he's truly been able to learn a lot, and it's been amazing to see his growth. Because just like him, I've had the same experience of being able to work in our family business and use it as a way of growing and improving and being able to also help and connect with other people. So now I want to introduce my brother, Kahlil, who's going to take it from here and then allow you all to introduce yourselves as well.
Thank you, Chelsea, for always the amazing introduction, always hyping me up like a sister should. But thank you. I'm honored to be here today with such remarkable women. I love doing these series because it allows for a chance for us to really ask questions to get to know more about the business side of what you all do, how you make a difference in the contracting industry, in the construction industry, and to really peek and get the insides of what you do in your business and your stories, which I think is great, which is a great resource and something really good for us to build on. So today I'll introduce all of you all briefly. Then the structure will be, we'll go one by one. Each of you will get at least about a couple minutes or so. I'm not going to time you or anything, but a couple minutes or so. Be considerate about time and allow everyone to answer. Then at the end of the question, we'll go back and see if anyone has any more thoughts, and we'll just keep it flowing like that organically and just conversation type. And we'll go about an hour. Then at the end, I'll ask some questions that I think the audience would want to know as well. But today, like I said, we have remarkable women from all sides of the industry, which I think is really interesting. We have Miss Worley, Miss Rachel Worley, Miss Deondrea Robinson. I hope I didn't butcher your name. I'm so sorry. Miss April Barrett and Miss Dana Brown. So we can start with Miss April Barrett. You can tell us a little bit about your story and about what you do.
Sure. So I am a builder, remodeler, real estate agent, and recently added LRS rock streaming DJ. So my main business, though, is building and remodeling. My business partner, Mary Schneiderman, and I were trained by a master builder out in Prospect and learned the ins and outs of luxury building. And our boss kind of started getting towards retirement age, and we could kind of see that it was coming, but wasn't really sure when anything was going to happen. And then he kind of started talking to us a little bit about it, of just not necessarily wanting to quit, but slow down a little bit. So it's kind of like, where does that leave us? We talked about possibly starting our own business, but, kind of needed that little push, if that makes sense. So, talking about things and then jumping on them and doing them are two different things. So anyway, at the end of the day, we were just like, this is our opportunity. Like, if we're going to do this, like, we need to do this and we need to do it now. And we just need to take this leap of faith, basically. So we started our building and remodeling company and just help get us some of the seed money because getting your insurances for stuff and, startup costs, aren't free. So we started hand making hula hoops and selling them at festivals and art shows. So sometimes when people are talking to me about this, I tell them that sometimes it can take a small idea to get a bigger idea going. So like if you see that roadblock at the beginning, that doesn't mean it has to end. You just need to get creative with it and like step outside the box. So we did. We sold hula hoops and we had them in Electric Ladyland and a thrift shop and went to art shows and festivals and we hawked hula hoops and we got our money to start our business. And we got a real estate license along with it as well, just because it made sense. It was hand in hand. And we've been going for about 4 years now.
I'm telling you, when I first heard that, I was thinking that's going to be a famous fundraising story one day. I've never heard of getting your startup money from hula hoops.
Hula hoops.
That's diversification. So, in
you.
thinking about interesting startups, and I love how you kind of segued into that. I know, Miss Brown, you had a similar story about how you kind of changed into construction from a different background as well.
Mine is much more reluctant. I was not quite as enthusiastic about getting into trades. I had degrees from U of L that I got my bachelor's in 97. So clearly the oldest in the room, but my bachelor's in 97. And then I had a bunch of kids. And then I went back to school to teach. And I was perfectly content in my nice little world teaching special education in Bullitt County, Kentucky, just having my little classroom where people came to me. I didn't have to sell anything. Like there was no conflict there. It was very frictionless, except for there was that little voice that said, you know what you need to be doing. You know what you need to be doing. You know what you need to be doing. And then my husband his father had a roofing company when he was growing up. And the little voice in his head that was contradicting the little voice in my head said, never do that, never do that, never do that. So we were very much at odds about, I had a very entrepreneurial spirit, but a very comfortable job. He was kind of the opposite, saying, I'm not doing that crap. I'm not doing it. You can't make me. I'm not doing it. In 2012, we took the leap. And we had tried a couple of jobs, kind of doing it kind of not the right way, just kind of doing it on the side, kind of seeing if we really had the skills that it took to not only put the job on, but do the accounting piece. And did we have the pieces in place, which of course we clearly did not in the very beginning. I think we're all kind of that rolling downhill and gathering up a little bit of information as we go. But I was a special ed teacher. I had patience for days. So the fact that I had no idea what I was doing did not bother me at all. My husband, on the other hand, was very agitated about the whole thing. So we clearly had some rough spots, in the very beginning. But I had this entrepreneurial spirit, and the only thing that paid worse than teaching was tutoring. And I figured, let's go, let's figure it out. And here we are. So we've been in business for 10 years as of this year. And we've grown double digits. Like most years we've grown double digits, which just means how very little that first year was. If you do the math, those first couple of years, we bought a job. We didn't have a business. We bought a job, and we were paying for our job as we went for many, many years. But we've really, in the last few years, turned a corner, and we had 5 kids, and we had, the typical American, we had debt up to our eyeballs, and, we've really made a huge stride in that. And I'm really encouraging those folks out there that have that little voice that's kind of won't go away and it won't hush up. Maybe it'll hush if you listen to it. So that's kind of my story of getting started.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like you've blown my mind in a couple ways. First off, from a teacher, my mom's a teacher with 5 kids. So, and I'm the middle, of course. You'd be able to tell. But I just think that's remarkable. But when you think about the patient side, it makes sense. You have that ability, especially working with kids, that I could definitely understand. So speaking of starts, I'd love to go to Miss Robinson, Jumpstart Realty. Tell us about about the name as well. I'd love to hear the story.
Well, it's funny how the name Jumpstart kind of came about. Jumpstart was actually started as a staffing agency. So my background actually was I have a associate degree in computer information systems, and then I have a bachelor's degree in public administration. So I was an employee of the Commonwealth of Kentucky for 12 years. And I went to school so that I could increase knowledge, be able to have the ability to grow in the area of human resources. So my last position with state government was the Human Resources Administrator for the Kentucky Board of Nursing. And I started out with the Commonwealth of Kentucky, or government business, as a temporary employee at the Human Rights Commission, and I was a receptionist. And I worked my way through state government, and I made it to the highest position available for a merit employee. And I was bored out of my mind. So I probably wasn't the most pleasant human resources administrator, just to be honest, because it just wasn't what I was born to do. I was not born to be confined to a desk and an office and stuck in a space. And I told myself I had 15 years or so left to get to retirement. And I saw other people retiring around me, and they were retiring, and 6 months later they were back in the office working again because retirement wasn't enough for them to sustain. And I said, I have to see the writing on the wall, and I need to do something different. And I decided to go into real estate because my dad, and Sam actually knows my dad, Mr. Beaudre. My dad was into rental properties and real estate growing up. My dad actually started his business. And it's a funny story how he started his business. He was working at Kentucky Lithographing. And I don't know if anybody knows that company, but it's like a factory company. And the company decided to close and move to Indianapolis. And my dad decided not to go because my mom and dad were taking care of my great grandmother. So my dad took his little severance package, small, tiny severance package, and decided that he was going to figure it out. So his first move was actually to he took his car and he got some plastic bags and he went to the Ohio River and he started fishing. And he caught some fish in the river. And he started selling those fish. And he took those fish and he bought a candy bus. And he would go to the housing projects and he made money using this candy bus. And he took the candy bus money and he actually bought his first property for $850. And that's the story of my dad getting into real estate and me watching him do that. He started working in real estate and being an investor when I was 7. So I kind of watched him do this. I decided at about probably 24 that I wanted to buy some property so that I could have some additional income. And crazy me, I went to Shagbark Road, which was completely, the whole neighborhood was boarded up. And I bought fourplex buildings with the help of my dad. And I bought them for $88,000. They were complete shells. And that kind of introduced me to construction. I had to fix these buildings and I kind of didn't know what I was doing. So We made it through that through trial and error. Long story short, we ended up with a total of 3 buildings over there. And I kept those buildings up to actually the latter part of last year, where I sold those buildings and made a remarkable profit, which was awesome. So that kind of got started into real estate and investing. And I still wanted to figure out, because I'm kind of an enthusiastic person about entrepreneurship and making money. So I went and I started doing cleans for this company that was doing property preservation. And that was where you work for the banks and the foreclosures. At this time, foreclosures were really heavy. So you just did private, our kind of maintenance work, cutting the grass, different things like that. Well, we were cleaning, and the company owner decided that they liked us, and they were like, we'll tell you what we're doing, but we're not going to tell you who our clients are. You figure it out. So we went and we did some investigation, got started with that, and started doing property preservation. So that kind of got us into contracting with other entities or other companies. The housing market rebounded, and we were kind of left in a pickle. So I say that, and I'm telling this part of the story because I think it's super important for entrepreneurs and business owners, and specifically in construction and investing, to understand that there are going to be some waves to this business, and there's going to be some ups and downs, some highs and some lows. But overall, I will have to say that the business has definitely been good to myself and my family. But we got into a situation where we were in a low, and we didn't have any work to do. And we were not very mindful of, we didn't know. It was just a lack of knowledge of knowing how to operate. And what Dana was talking about is knowing how to run the books and how to save and how to prepare for those lows. We didn't do that. So we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. And by the grace of God, we won a contract with the Louisville Metro Housing Authority to do a scattered roof project. That saved us, along with my mom. She's amazing. So we kind of got out of the hole doing that, and then we moved into a different level of contracting, because we started working with government entities. And since then, we've transitioned into working with Louisville Metro government as a contractor, working with the Louisville Metro Housing Authority. We work with some of the nonprofit organizations. That type of work is near and dear to my heart, because I learned through doing this, where you kind of get your niche and you learn things about yourself. And of course, the money comes along with the process, but I learned that being able to help individuals that can't help themselves is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. So yes, we are making money and we are running a business, and of course we want to make a profit, but at the same time, a lot of the things that I choose to do things that have a purpose and a cause. So I do love working in the nonprofit arena. I also fix and flip, and I'm a realtor. So that's my story. Hopefully that wasn't too long.
No, that was awesome. And I think I love the beginning, how you said it was your dad that got it from candy to a property. That is amazing. It seems like it was kind of part of your destiny. Like,
Absolutely.
And I can see how you'd be frustrated in another job, knowing like with that background, like, okay, this is what I'm kind of built to do.
Absolutely.
And I know, Rachel, we were talking earlier about how kind of you have a similar kind of upbringing to that. Like you kind of knew that you were geared for your industry as well. If you'd like to talk to that.
Sure. Yeah. My mom says that in kindergarten, I rolled up some papers, threw them over my shoulder, and proclaimed that I was going to be an architect when I grew up. And I have no idea where that came from, because I did not know a single architect. And basically, chain of events, ended up going to architecture school. My first year of architecture school, my professor told me I was not meant to be an architect. I should drop out. And for a hot second, I did switch majors, but never actually left. Switched back the next semester. And as I was saying earlier, in a bit of gloating, I became a licensed architect before she did. So, look, yeah, who is meant to be an architect? But anyways, I went, well, I'll skip that part of the story, but I've just also had a passion for helping people with this industry. I have been fortunate enough to do that as well, and started my own business. It'll be 12 years this summer. And I was really quiet at first about starting it when I was having my first child, and then proceeded to have 2 more children because I felt like it wasn't a super popular decision. I'm definitely in a male industry, as I think we probably all are. So saying that I wanted to be home with a baby and have a business wasn't the most like PC, put it out there thing. So it's only been in the last few years that I think actually COVID has helped make it socially acceptable to be having kids around while running a business. So I have always, I guess, unlike some of the stories, I was always extremely debt adverse. So I started with no investment whatsoever and just have grown it, decided I was never going to have an office and always have virtual folks that worked with me. So again, also made it very convenient when COVID happened because my team's all virtual and they're across the country on an as needed kind of basis. They're moms, dads, retirees doing their thing too. So yeah, I am an architect by education, but have since become an interior designer as well. So I love doing both the layouts and then picking finishes and some of that fun stuff. So yeah.
And one of the things I found constant through everyone's story is that it's really hard at the beginning, especially you have a lot of those struggles and you have to have a lot of patience. And Ms. Brown, you spoke specifically to like the accounting part, the books. Could you all each speak specifically to what would be maybe a struggle that someone would find, or one of your biggest struggles that you had when you were first starting your business? And you can go ahead and start if you'd like, Ms. Brown.
Sure. So, I mean, I'm known for honesty. I lay it all out there. We did it wrong. We just flat did it wrong. We started off thinking, we were going to do something on the side and it was okay if we didn't have all the boxes checked. We paid dearly for our reluctance to slow down and do it right from the very, very beginning. We did not have all of the insurances in place. And we didn't know what we didn't know. So it wasn't that we knew better and just chose not to do it. We were just running with our hair on fire trying to make $1. We had 5 flipping kids, we had to figure out something immediately. So we didn't slow down. We didn't take the steps in the order that they're supposed to be. We were kind of that kid that just takes off running and skips a few and falls on their face and gets up and keeps going. That was us. We started with a borrowed truck and a used trailer and made it work. Given the opportunity to do it over again, though, I honestly can't say I would do it any differently because we not only grew a business, but we grew us. And at the end of the day, having a good partner and a good, stable foundation of who you are matters a whole lot more to everything else that you build above that. And knowing who you are and who you're with, and more importantly, who's not with you, makes all the difference in the world.
Wow, I'm over here writing. That's powerful. I'm trying to jot it all down. But that reminded me because I know you were talking about the specifics, especially who you're with and who you're not. I think that was really remarkable. Miss Barrett, you were, I remember you told me a story specifically with the hula hoops about how you ran into trouble, I think, with underestimating insurance or some of the specifics, similar to Miss Brown, kind of not knowing what she didn't know.
Right.
You don't know what boxes to check if you don't know that these things are, over there. So could you speak to kind of those things, those aspects?
Sure. As far as like the processes and everything, we kind of knew how that went because of being under a master builder. But when it came to actually the business part of it, like it was already set up where we worked. So learning how to set everything up from the beginning, we didn't quite realize how much money it was going to take to get the insurance going for a general contractor. And yeah, you get to pay it sometimes in payment plans, but they want a big chunk of that up front. And then just all the little fees that goes into the licensing, getting your EIN number, getting registered with the state. So we kind of realized we needed a little bit of direction because we were kind of piecing it together as we went. And so we reached out to the SBDC, which is a small business development center. And they had a lot of useful tools and a lot of useful people as well. They're all about small businesses. And another hurdle that we had was, in order to build a spec house, meaning a house that Mary and I fund, buy the lot, design, work with the architect to create the layout. A bank's just not going to give you that money when you've just started a business. So 2 years of taxes is pretty much the hard line to get that kind of money. So the SBDC guided us in like what banks, when it came time for that 2 years to hit, like who to go talk to and who that they had relationships with. So it was nice because we weren't necessarily just cold calling banks, if that made sense. It was like, okay, Tony Sears at SBDC just sent us here and help. And we did build a spec house in our first year of business, but again, we got creative with it and we found an investor. And we actually taught them how to build. So it was kind of a deal where like, you've got cash, I've got nothing, I've got knowledge, you're sort of there. So we partnered up and then had an agreement at the end of the day, like, cool, competition's healthy, whatever. Not going to do this all day long, obviously, but they helped us and we helped them. So sometimes finding those other people that are looking to do the same thing as you are, instead of looking at it as competition, look at it as like a team effort. And like, you don't have to stay tied together forever. You can get creative with it and do whatever you want. So that's always something I'm trying to express to people is that like, there's a will, there's a way. You just got to find that way. So
I think you made so many good points right there. I remember Chelsea and I were talking about the other day, just about this group and about how there's so many different industries and how if people like in construction work together, they shouldn't see it as competition because everyone's in their own lane doing their own thing. Right. And I think that's what you said. It's kind of, if you have the right people, exactly how Ms. Brown said, no, the right and the wrong people, you find those right people, it can give you that advantage. That was one of big takeaways that I really liked. Another thing is the resources. What is it called? The small business development.
Yeah, sometimes it's referred to as a small business administration. Then it's small business development center. They're like the same thing. It's here in Louisville though. And I recommend anybody that's wanting or thinking about a new business, starting it, to reach out to them because they just something that would take you hours to find online. They can tell you in 10 minutes, like, here's the website, go to this, check it out. And it just, it makes you feel like you have somebody kind of rooting for you in your corner as well, because you're out in this new world all by yourself.
Yeah. And sometimes those resources are kind of the game changers. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to go to you, Ms. Robinson, because I remember you said the waves and you kind of talked about some of those hard times and those difficult points of your career. And I know especially if you're working with like the housing authority and Metro, there's a lot of those things that you probably had no idea that you had to check off your list and get done. So if you could talk to that, I think that'd be really interesting.
Absolutely. I think that for me, my learning curve, I guess it would be advice, let me put it that way, that I would have for a new business owner getting into construction would be to prepare for the worst at all times. So what I mean by that is, as you get started kind of in the business, and I think where we kind of went wrong in the beginning, early stages of actually getting into contracting or for other entities, were number one, do not put all of your eggs in one basket. Do not allow an entity or a company to absorb you and turn you into an employee. So if you want to be somebody's employee, go get a job. You are a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, and I think that it's important for you to have multiple customers and clients that you work with and you build relationships with. So I want to kind of tell this story kind of quickly so that people can kind of understand what I mean by that. When we were working with property preservation, we started working with this particular, we had probably 5 or 6 companies that we did business with on a regular basis. And as the housing market started to improve, some of those companies started to fall off. However, there was one particular company that had a abundance of work available. And they kind of, our work, our capacity, our ability, and the number of people that we had to work with us, we could only handle so much, and they were paying really good money. And we were like, okay, this is great. So we just kind of went with that, and we put all our eggs in their basket, and their basket had a hole in it. So what happened is eventually they lost their contract. They did not tell the subcontractors that they lost the contract. They allowed us to work for about 3 months and finish out all of the work. They did not tell us anything. So once all the work was completed, they were like, we don't have any more work, and thanks for working with us and have a nice life. So what I mean by preparing for the worst is we were not prepared for that. We were new business. I wouldn't say new business owners. We started business in 2008, and this was probably 2012-ish, 2013. So we had been into it for about 5 years, and we didn't prepare for it. So what I mean by not preparing for it is when you start making a substantial amount of money and you've never really made that kind of money before, I'm just being very open and candid, you really don't understand how to be a good steward of the blessings that God provides for you. So what I mean by that is we were giving money away to people if somebody was in need, which is great. You help people or whatever. We were hosting the 4th of July parties and buying all the fireworks. We were just not doing the things, and we did not save. So because we now nothing against the previous generation prior to us, but I'll just be honest, our parents did not teach us the importance of saving. We were taught to work, go to work, live paycheck to paycheck. So what I mean by that is, so we didn't save, and when this unfortunate event took place, we didn't have any money saved, and we were like, what are we gonna do? One of the other things that I want to recommend to people is, to be mindful of, if I can afford to pay the monthly payment, I can afford it. No, you cannot. If you can afford to pay the monthly payment, and that's all you can afford to pay, you cannot afford it. So pace yourself. Don't go out and buy the new truck. Don't go out and buy the latest model lawnmower. Don't go out and do all of these other things that's not necessary for you to be able to operate in business. And I say that because it's a domino effect. If the money goes away and you can't afford the monthly payments, you are immediately going downhill like a snowball. I experienced all of that. So so those are some of the advice that I have is to diversify your client base, to save, and to take your time with the assets that you bring into the company. Those are some of the things that I would say starting out would be very, very beneficial, so that you don't have to go down the slippery slope and fight and work your way back up. It was a long road back to get to where I am today.
Wow, that was amazing. There's a lot of gems. I think another thing that's consistent I'm seeing is that kind of a lot of when you struggle quick and fast, they're hard lessons, but they're ones that you don't forget, you know,
Absolutely.
the ones that sting but that stick with you.
Absolutely.
So maybe that's where the value is.
They're necessary. And I think every business owner at some point in time is going to experience something like this to some capacity. The other thing that I'm going to say is it gets better later. So don't give up.
Yeah, like you said, the waves. I really like that analogy. Hit the waves. I just want to go to the beach, honestly. But so Rachel, I know you spoke a little bit at first during your introduction to the difficulties of when you were starting with having your first kid and how it was kind of an unpopular decision. And I think that's something that probably all of you women have kind of felt in a way, especially in the construction industry, feeling that sort of backlash a little bit. If you'd like to talk to that.
Sure. I know there's so many books and I guess advice, opinions to start with a business plan and all these things. To me, the most critical starting place is writing out your vision and your values. And that is not just for your business, but personally. I think kind of echoing what the others have said too. What are your priorities around finances? What are your priorities around your family? What are the priorities around your faith and how that applies to your business? Basically anything that's important to you, write them out, because then everything can be gauged against that. Should I take this client? Is not about then how much they're going to pay you, but do they align with those visions and values? And I would say I had a time when I was having a lot of opportunities, a lot of success, a lot of financial benefit. And though that was all raising, my family and quality of life, that work-life balance was completely plummeting. And I had to recalibrate and say, you know what? Earning this much is not worth it for the trade-offs to what I'm saying are actually important in my life. And it's still a struggle sometimes, that balance. I think it always will be to a degree. But when you keep coming back to that from the inception of your business to 12 years down the road, I try to constantly gauge against that. And I try to officially write it out once a year just to say, okay, where are we now? Because things change. Your goals change. Family dynamics change. Your kids go from babies to all in elementary school, so things change. And I think then business decisions follow with that. So.
And I think one of the most important things you brought up was kind of the balance, kind of this imaginary kind of theory that we're supposed to have a perfect set of, values that match our work, that match our family, and that we can equally do this. And I think it's an interesting perspective because everyone has a different thought on balance. And I know me and April talked about this earlier on the phone, actually. So would you like to I would like everyone to kind of give their thought of how they've had to balance out their career with their home life, especially being a woman and having maybe a family or these sorts of things. So if you'd like to speak to that.
Sure. And I'd like to say thank you to everyone because I'm learning a whole lot from you ladies. Everybody here has been in business a bit longer than me, but I really appreciate hearing everything that you guys have been saying. I don't have any kids, but I have a fur baby. So my husband and I have a husky. But the work-life balance is still real because you still need that time to decompress. And, we're entrepreneurs, so we're passionate about what we do and we want to do a good job because we know that like it's basically all on us. And, you want to try and give your best product every time. And I found though that sometimes you just have to take that step back because you're not always going to always give your best product when you're absolutely exhausted. You're not thinking correctly. And sometimes you just need to take that step back to be able to see the whole picture because we get like so zoned in and like hyper focused on things. You can start missing like other pieces of the puzzle. So I like to try, well, as I said, I'm an LRS DJ in the middle of the day. So I call that my recess hour. So for me, like my vendors know that like they got to catch me in the morning, but from 11 to noon, like you can't bug me. Like I'm doing my rock thing. And it's extremely random. It has nothing to do with real estate. You know what I'm saying? But that's also kind of the beauty of it as well, because it just gives me that, some people do it with yoga, some people do it with meditations, there's different outlets for everyone. So I encourage people to find like their outlet, like whatever that may be, paint a picture, pick some flowers, take a walk. You don't have to pay for your outlet. It can be something free. But just to reset yourself so that you do give that best product, of yourself. And we got to take care of ourselves first. Otherwise, we're just not going to be our best.
Thank you. And Miss Robinson, thanks, Portia. And Miss Robinson, I know you talked about, I always refer to the waves. How do you find balance with going through those waves? Or I guess not find balance, but kind of make sure you're personally okay first.
I'm a mom. I have a 20-year-old and a 23-year-old and a newly adopted 18-year-old now. So one of my son's friends has been with us for a year, and I have one kid that is going to school to be he's finishing up his class to be home inspector. I have one that is in college now playing football. And then Jason is at Manual High School finishing up, and he will be going to play football. So I say that to say, back in the days of the waves are not as wavy anymore. Life balance is there's still some work-life balance that needs to be addressed or has to be addressed on a regular basis, but not as much because my kids are older now. But when my kids were younger, we also raised my niece. She's a little bit older than my boys. So it was a work-life balance. I will have to say this. Having a business allowed me to be present for my children. And that is something that outside of everything that this business has brought, good, bad, or ugly, that I would have to say is the greatest treasure out of being a business owner is we were allowed to be present for our children. We were allowed to be at the basketball games and the track meets and get them ready for the dances and different things like that. So that is the good side. There were times in the beginning where the kids would be at home and we would have to order pizza because we're in Timbuktu, Kentucky, cleaning out a house in the middle of the dark with no electric, and they're at home and they know how to get themselves situated, but I have to feed them. So there were times where in the beginning we had to make some sacrifices to be able to grow the business and to have a thriving business. Now, present day, I think work-life balance is a matter of figuring out how to have time for myself. I'm super, super passionate about helping the people that I serve, and whether that be through the neighborhood stabilization program, where these people are receiving grant money because they can't afford to fix their house and they have a leaking roof and their windows are lead-based paint, et cetera, or just a first-time home buyer who this market is absolutely crazy. Anybody who's a realtor knows it is bonkers. So I may have clients that they come to me, they see our renovations, they meet me, they know what we do, and they love the product, and I'm able to work with them, and their budget may only be $175,000, and I can say, I can go buy this house and fix it for you and keep it within your budget. So I'm helping these people, but at the same time, I have to sometimes step back and say, I have to have some self-care and figure out what I need to do for myself. One of the things that I decided to do, and I know I'm long-winded, so I'm gonna make this quick. One of the things that I decided to do last year, and I hinted to that earlier earlier when I was talking, was that I decided to sell some of my rental properties. So I was a landlord, an investor, a contractor, a realtor, flipping houses, all of this stuff. And I literally was mentally and physically drained. And I said, what part of this do I not like? And the part that I didn't like very much was being a landlord. So I sold a lot of the multifamily unit properties because I wanted to move on to doing something else. And this year I am slated to build 5 new construction so far. So I'm moving into building in addition to the other stuff, but I enjoy that. And I wasn't enjoying being a landlord as much. So I think that that's the balance, figuring out what you like and what you enjoy. And that's the cool thing about being a business owner. You really do get to decide.
So. And it sounds like finding out what you don't like is also just as important. Finding out like that landlord, like that's not what you want to do. I feel like that kind of helps bring your peace and bring that balance. And Ms. Brown, I know you, it was funny. I know you referred to, I think you said running around like with your head on fire, chicken cut off with I don't know the saying.
Hair on fire. Hair on fire. The faster you run, the worse it gets. Your hair is on fire.
So how did you help sort of balance that out after kind of, I guess you have points where you have to do a full sprint, but then, you have to calm down and recollect and I guess go in a direction. How did you sort of do that for yourself and your business?
Honestly, I think the first step is, for me, I had 5 kids, a brand new business, and I didn't know what I was doing from one minute to the next. So this idea of balance, I really had to put on a shelf and just call that. That was something that was for other people. I did not have that. I would come back to that another day. That was not for me. That was a retirees thing, and it was not going to happen in my life. It just simply wasn't. And so for me, I think realistically, I mean, I grew up, this sounds awful to say, but I grew up in a family where women stayed home and lunched. I was not that girl. I didn't want that. That wasn't the world that I had. I wanted stuff. I wanted to make something. I wanted to build something. I wanted to be something. And a woman who lunched was not that. That was not my path. And so for me, really redefining what it meant to be successful beyond lunch and nail appointments was really a big part of redirecting what it meant for me to feel fulfilled. And so I think a lot of times when women feel so burnt out and balanced, it's because you're trying to balance the wrong crap. Find your stuff and do that. Yes. And that's where real success lives for me. And I think for most women who start off on this entrepreneurial journey, there is that voice inside that tells them what to do. And then all those other voices, you know, that like 100 million other people start chirping in at the same time and they lose their way. But you know what to do. Do that. So balance wasn't my friend or my focus. It was this word that meant I was supposed to feel unsatisfied and I didn't. And so I just quit. Just quit. That's probably not the answer you were looking for at all. But that's totally
No, Miss Brown, you're about to have some women running through a brick wall after this. Like that was amazing. And I love you in a good way. That's a saying I use, but I love the energy, and you all have all provided different insights from different areas that has all kind of conveyed the same message, I think, in different ways. I've heard consistent messages about when you're struggling, how to start off, how to get through those walls, how to manage those waves. We've added resources in about the importance of finances, accounting, and getting around the right people. There's so much knowledge here I'm giving today, and I'm so thankful to have you all join us for this webinar. As we wrap up, I would like you all to give your last words of advice, if you have a quick word of advice. And if there's anything else you'd like to say about your company or anything, we could leave on. I think that would be a good note to leave on. And we could start with you, Miss Barrett, if you'd like.
Sure. I think really just echoing what everyone has said, and that it really is a journey, and sometimes you don't know where the path is taking you, and you got to just trust that instinct and like call it faith, call it whatever you want, but just believe in yourself. You are going to hit roadblocks. You are going to hear no. You know, you be prepared for these things because they're going to happen, but that doesn't mean it needs to stop you. So if you hit a roadblock, which way are you going to zig and zag? You know, don't let it stop you. Just figure out a way around it. So sometimes you have to do multiple things to get around it. Sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes, you know, there's definitely sacrifices that you make having your own business. You know, everybody just starts off with basically nothing in the beginning. And then people think that, well, you just own your own business, you can do whatever you want. Well, yes, you can, but yes, you can't. So, I think that can be a big misconception, you know, like, because it is yours, you're going to take ownership of it and you're going to want it to be the best. So yeah, just the takeaway, don't give up, you know, accept the challenge and, you know, figure out a crafty way around it. So.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Miss Worley, am I saying that right, by the way?
You are, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I guess last advice would be that learning to say no is probably more important than what you say yes to. And I love talking about business. So if anybody wants to connect, I'd be more than happy to answer questions or connect in any way. Probably the easiest way to find me is on most social media is 3.design, all spelled out. And it's probably on this information as well. But if I can help anybody, you know, give advice, mentor, whatever, I'm happy to. And it doesn't have to be in this industry necessarily, because there's a lot of overlap. And anything I learned was just from books and the School of Hard Knocks. So yeah. I think you're muted.
Sorry, I said no one to say no. That's fun. I really like that. Miss Brown, if you'd like.
Sure. I guess my last couple takeaways, how to find me. We are Cervices with a C because we see service differently. That was our tagline. And it's also a constant reminder to us that we are here to serve, not to be served. And that is our highest calling, is to give back and be the people that lift up. All ships rise together. So that's the first thing, is how to connect with me. The second thing is when people show you who they are, believe them. So when that client shows you that they are not your client, believe them. When that client shows you that they are absolutely your client, believe that too. When that prospective team member comes to the interview and you think, you are not my people, believe it. Always believe that gut that got you this far. Because it won't steer you wrong. The only thing that's going to steer you wrong is when you start engaging the head, when the heart already knows the right decision. And then the last thing is, once you've made that decision, take away all the other options. There's a phrase that it sounds so dramatic, when you say, but if you want to take the beach, burn the boats. If you want to take the beach, burn the boats. That's your only option. Make it happen. That's it.
Mic drop.
Yes.
That was awesome. And Ms. Robinson, you can take us home.
Let the church say amen.
Right. Well.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful words from all of the panelists. I do want to tell the ladies that I will be reaching out to every last one of you guys.
Yay.
Definitely need to link as far as the audience is concerned. I would say my last word of advice would be to trust your gut, trust your instinct, trust God, and not to quit and not to give up. Again, there'll be ups and downs. Every business owner has to go through that process to really, it's almost like an initiation process. You go through all of these struggles and you go through these things, but it definitely sets you up it sets you up for a solid foundation. So don't look at the difficult times or the hard times as unbearable or something that you can't overcome. I always look at those things as lessons. So if something happens that's unfortunate, I look at it and I say, what can I learn from this situation? And how do I take that lesson and put it down as another block to build my foundation? So just use those things as lessons of growth. And I just encourage you all that no matter what, do not quit. And I guarantee you, if you don't quit, if you do not quit, you're going to see success unlike you've ever seen before, and well beyond your expectations. That's all I got.
That was beautifully said.
And I wanted to say just something really quick, excuse me, because I really enjoyed all of y'all's stories and the information that you all shared. You all are doing great work, and the fact that you're doing things that you enjoy with the passion and helping other people in the process is amazing. So I too look forward to staying connected with each one of you all and growing a true, partnership and business relationship so that we all can continue to grow.
Thank you so much for the chance.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you all, ladies, again. This is awesome. And I think this will be so good to help other women who are thinking about taking that chance, taking that jump, who want to be a realtor, architect, be in all these different services that women aren't in. I think this will be so good to use. And I'm thankful that you all gave us this time. So thank you all again. I'll see you all for our next series, and have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.